An update to a story we've been following closely here on Happening Now since the murder first occurred. A woman on the FBI's most wanted list is captured and extradited back to the U.S. Brenda Delgado is her name. She's charged with the murder of Kendra Hatcher. Here's how police say it all happened. From 2013 to 2015, Brenda Delgado dated a dermatologist named Ricardo Paniagua. They both lived in Dallas, Texas. On September 2nd of 2015, Ricardo's new girlfriend, Kendra Hatcher, was shot to death in the garage of her apartment complex. Then on April 6th of this year, after Delgado fled to Mexico, she was placed on the FBI's 10 most wanted list. She was suspected of hiring a man and a woman to kill Hatcher. Police say she was jealous of her ex-boyfriend's new relationship. She was then arrested on April 8th in northern Mexico, where she awaited extradition to the United States. And just last week, she arrived in Dallas after 5 months in a Mexican prison. The extradition made possible under the condition that prosecutors will not seek the death penalty. Her bond set at $1 million. Joining us now, Lise Wheel, Fox News legal analyst, and Bob Bianchi, a criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. Let's go back to when this case first happened. Beloved dentist, not the kind of person who normally has a whole lot of enemies, gets shot to death in her garage. Generally, authorities go looking for somebody very close to that person as having the motive. A
pediatric dentist, I mean, for kids, exactly. And shot to death in a gated community. So it's not a crime of passion. In other words, it's not somebody, in the middle of a fight. So it's not somebody, right there. So that smells to you right away as a contract killing. Somebody just kind of pulling up in a getaway car. There's somebody there in the car waiting for the person. Person comes out, shoots her, then gets back in the car. Now, they were able to get the getaway driver, who apparently confessed to the police that she's in custody. She thought, that she was just going for a robbery, right? So that makes her culpability, she can be said to say, well, the lowest then of these three people. You've got this triangle. You've got the getaway driver, you've got the shooter, and now you've got this woman that's been extradited from Mexico to Dallas. So
who may have arranged the whole thing.
Exactly. So if I'm the prosecutor, I go for the lowest rung here, the person who has the least culpability, who says, I was just driving that car thinking it was a robbery. But she has the rungs to put all three of those people together because she knew about all three of those pieces. So I go for her, try to get her to tell me everything she knows about the other two.
But you've got a brutal murder here, and apparently a murder for hire, if authorities have their case put together correctly. It took place in Texas, which is a state that is not afraid to use the death penalty, but the death penalty is off the table, at least for Delgado.
Yeah, it's off the table, but, I agree with Lise, but I'll say one other thing. As a former homicide prosecutor myself, I never cut deals with people unless I absolutely had to because the quality of the evidence was so bad. And in Texas, they have the felony murder rule, which means that even if you didn't intend the death to occur as the driver, if you are a participant in a felony, which robbery would qualify for, and somebody died, then you are as culpable as them. So if I have good evidence on her for a hit for hire, these are the best cases for prosecutors to try, John. Why? There's no passion provocation. You can't argue it wasn't purposeful. You can't argue it was heat of passion. To me, I'd be very careful before I gave anybody a break.
So you're saying that under Texas law, the driver and the hitman both could face the death penalty here?
Well, they could potentially hit the death penalty because there was no agreement in the extradition
because
treaty.
They didn't run to Mexico.
But, right,
absolutely.
But not the woman that ran to Mexico. We started this whole thing because of the Mexican extradition.
Mexico will not send people, criminal suspects, back to the United States if they face the death penalty.
Correct. That's for everybody.
Long-standing,
extradition treaty, exactly.
And but nevertheless, in a death penalty case against the other two, if you don't seek the death penalty after the person that was actually planning it and plotting it and had the motive to do it, jealousy, which is always the number one motive in a homicide case.
And don't forget, this happened just after the two of them have gone to meet his parents.
Yeah, so the dead woman and her new love.
So the first girlfriend, who by the way dated this guy for 2 years, they're in their early 30s, dated him for 2 2 years. That's a long term to be in a relationship. She just then finds out they've gone to meet the parents in San Francisco. That is a trigger motivating factor. You don't have to prove motivation in a prosecution, but jurors like to hear that.
But Bob, very quickly, her lawyer says, look, she didn't have the money to hire a lawyer. That's why she ran to Mexico.
Listen, John, at the end of a case, a judge reads a thing called a flight charge, which basically tells the jury that you can take flight alone as consciousness of guilt, they call it. She didn't flee because she didn't have money. She fled because the police had just interrogated her. And
no money for prosecution for a defense lawyer doesn't make any sense. You have a right under the Constitution for a defense lawyer. Right. She gets a defense lawyer.
Well, you're right, Bob. She's back in this country after 5 months in a Mexican jail and probably happy to be here after that experience. At least we all, Bob Bianchi. Thank you.
Thanks,
Jenna.